Yo, welcome back everybody. I hope you guys are doing well as always. We are doing a VST tier list. Now I've got VSTs on here all from like instrument VSTs, synths, and we're also gonna do like effects plugins and all that stuff. So I'm sure all of you guys know what a tier list is, but for those of you who don't, basically we're just gonna go through all these plugins and rank them as like best to worst. There are definitely a couple plugins on here that I don't have or have never used, so we got a category for that. I'll give my input on anything that I can as far as the ones I haven't used, like if I've watched people use them or like seen YouTube videos about them and stuff like that. But honestly, I'm excited for this, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Now the first one we got on the list is Ace. If you guys don't know Ace, it's a UHI plugin. To be honest, all of the UHI plugins to me are pretty fire. And the one benefit about them is that you can download them for free and use like a free trial. The only downside is you have to render out the audio every once in a while, otherwise it will just like mute it. Now these plugins are not like groundbreaking, but you do get a lot of presets for like the price of them. So I'm honestly gonna put Ace up in A. And then after that we got Diva, and I'm pretty much just gonna put that right next to Ace. I think they're about equally the same. I think Diva might be a little bit better. It just has more presets. Next up, we got Addictive Keys. Me personally, I use this piano VST a lot. I think it's a really good alternative to like, you got FL keys and you just want to level up. I think this is another good step. I will say it is a little bit expensive for the amount of presets you get. So we're going to put it in B because I do think it sounds realistic, but there are definitely much better pianos you can get. Next up, we got Hive. This is also a part of the UHI plugin series. This is honestly going to be the first one that I'm going to put in S. I think Hive is a really good VST. It's very versatile. You can use it for like virtual stuff, melodic, ambient, dark. It just has a ton of different presets and like a really good range. So we're going to keep that one in S tier. Next, we got Serum 2. Now, Serum 2 just dropped, so I don't know if we can actually really put it in S. Nah, who am I kidding? This plugin is incredible already, bro. It's so much better than Serum 1. It has to go in S already. Next up, we got Analog Lab. I'm putting Analog Lab in S. This is like a staple VST in my opinion. I use this on pretty much every single loop, if not every other. It just has an insane range of sounds and presets, and people make some crazy banks for this and get really creative too. It also just houses like a ton of individual synth plugins. So it's just, for the amount of money that it is, you get so much with it. Next up, we got Arcade. I'm gonna put Arcade at either A or B. I'm not too sure. I think I'm gonna put it at B for now. My only beef with it is I wish it wasn't a subscription-based plan. I do use Arcade every once in a while. I used to use it way more than I do now, just because I feel like it also doesn't get updated enough as I would want to for like paying for it every month. It's only about 10 bucks a month, but that really adds up if you're not using it like every day on everything. So I'm going to keep it in B. It's got a ton of fire banks in it, but like I said, if you go through it and use a lot of it, at a certain point, you're going to like run out of stuff to use and it just becomes obsolete. So we're going to keep it at B. Now we got Boo Bass. This is like a C. Next, we got Cube. Cube is a really cool VST. I'm going to put it at A. I do use it quite a bit, and I think the amount of like customization you can do to sounds is pretty cool. And also just all of the stock presets are very usable in my opinion. So we're going to keep that at A. All right, next we got Current. I think this is Current 2. I've honestly never used this VST. I've always wanted to try it. We're going to put it in never used for now, but I have seen videos of like Rio Leva using it, and from what I can see, it looks pretty insane. So if I had to guess, it'd probably land somewhere in the A to S tier. Now this is another controversial one. I've actually never used Electra X. I have seen this plugin for the last like 5 years of producing, and among unpopular opinion, I like to buy all my VSTs. I just think it just feels better to actually own them, and I've just never spent the money on Electra X. I know it's crazy. I know it's probably an S tier, but I've just never used it. I literally started producing watching like Nick Mira, and he used this all the time. So it's kind of crazy that I haven't bought it yet, but Maybe down the road, I don't know. We'll see. Next, we got Evermotion. This is a VST pedal from Max Shooter. And honestly, I'm going to put it at about a B tier. I think it's a really cool plugin idea. I just think it needs more sounds. It's very limited as it is like a new release, so it doesn't have too many presets as of right now. But the presets that are in here are pretty good. They're pretty usable. There's a lot of like pedal emulation and sort of granular sounding stuff. So if that's what you're going for, then this is a really good VST for that. Now we got the classic. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. FL Keys. This is a D tier. FL Keys sucks. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I've tried to use it so many times. I can't do it. All right, now we got Keyscape. Keyscape, I gotta put an S. I don't actually have Keyscape on this computer right now. I used to have it, but I just think it's probably the best piano VST you could ever get. It has so many different sounds and everything in there is just like super realistic. Next, we got Contact. Now, Contact it's a really good VST, but I'm gonna put it in A tier only because it's so expensive if you actually buy your stuff. The launcher for Contact is like $200 something, and then you gotta pay for each bank. And these Contact bank developers, why are you making your plugins $200 a bank? Like, I don't get it. So that's really the only reason I'm gonna put it in A, just because of the price. But then we got Labs, and this is actually a completely free VST by Spitfire Audio. And I gotta put this in S, to be honest. I use Labs all the time, even just for the one piano that they have. That's like that felt piano. It's just a really good preset and it's free. And they have a ton of other different banks that you can get that have, you know, like synths and pads and like guitars and stuff like that. So it's just a really good VST and it's 100% free. So that's why it's going in S. Next, we got Massive. Massive is cool, but I think, you know, you got plugins like Serum, which I think are just a little bit better as far as like the like user experience goes. It's just a lot easier to use a plugin like Serum versus Massive. And I know they went through like a whole rebrand and stuff, but I'm just gonna put it at B because there are a lot of good sounds, but it's not like the easiest to learn, I feel like. All right, these next two are gonna be a little bit disappointing because I've actually never used Nexus and I've never used Omnisphere. Now, like I said before, I buy all my plugins. So these two alone are like $2,000 combined. I'm not paying for that. And there are just a bunch of other VSTs, in my opinion, that I could use in replace of these. These were like very popular back in like 2018, but I think there's just a lot of other options now that are kind of equally on the same playing field. All right, next we got Pigments, and Pigments is another part of the Arturia like bundle of synths that you can get, similar with Analog Lab. Pigments is an S tier. The customization of sounds that you can like achieve in Pigments is actually crazy, like the resampling effects. If you guys know Keon and Max Shooter, they make like multi-key presets. And I believe a majority of those are made in Pigments. So there's just like endless possibilities you can do. So definitely an S tier plugin in my opinion. Then we got Purity. Now Purity is going in S simply for just like the nostalgic goated factor. I still use Purity if I need to make like plug stuff or just, it's just like a good VST all around. And it does have a lot of cheap sounds in it, but sometimes you just need that type of sound for the thing you're making. So this is an easy S tier. It's just been a good plugin for so many years. Next, we got Serato Sampler. I actually don't use this too often, but whenever I do end up like chopping up samples, this is an easy go-to. I'm gonna put it in A just because I think it's pretty easy to learn. It can take out the vocals, it can take out the drums of a sample. Like it's got a really good sort of AI system built into it. I'm not gonna put it in S just because I feel like I don't use it enough. So it's just kind of like a once in a while type of thing for me. Next, we got Serum, and this just has to go in S. This, I think, is one of like probably the most popular, most used VSTs in the past like 10 years. And the fact that they just came out with Serum 2 just speaks to how like you saw all the Instagram stories and stuff of how people are excited for Serum 2. So it just proves that this VST has been popular for a long time. Serum also really just holds a special place in my heart because that's like where I started producing and making serum banks and the kits and all that stuff, and that's kind of how I grew my like brand, was through like serum banks and stuff. So that's always going to hold a place in my heart personally, so we're going to keep it at S. All right, I'm doing a lot of yapping. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. Spire, never used it. I haven't really heard too much about it other than like a couple people say it's pretty good. The Prince by Frank Dukes is actually a pretty good plugin. I'm going to put it at probably B. The only reason I would put it at B is just because there hasn't been any sort of like development as far as I'm aware for like new presets and stuff like that. Next, we got WaveStation. I'm going to put WaveStation at I'll probably put it at B as well. I think there are a ton of good sounds in there, but same issue. It's just like there's a lot of good sounds, but there's also a lot of bad ones, and it's like $100 bucks. I feel like it's maybe a little bit too expensive for what it is, but we're just gonna keep it at B for now. Then we got Triton. I've never used Triton. I've seen a ton of people use it. I know it's really fire for like e-pianos and whatnot. Expand 2. Now, I am kind of basing this list off of usability in 2025, like what is new, what is fresh, what is still standing the testament of time. And honestly, I think Expand is an S tier plugin. I think it's like one of the most known plugins aside from Serum. It's been on sale forever for like $12, and it just comes with like an amazing amount of sounds. Next, we got Xenology. This is an easy S tier. It does have a lot of terrible sounds, I will say, but it also has a ton of good ones. A lot of people make really good banks for it. So, all right, and that was actually the last one for the synths that I have. I think maybe if anything, I'm gonna move Purity just down to A. Then we got Purity. Now, Purity is going in S simply for just like the nostalgic goated factor. Now we're gonna move on to the effects. Now, to start off with, we got the effects collection from Arturia. I think I'm gonna put the EFX collection probably in, honestly, we'll go A tier, just because it has a ton of different types of plugins. You've got a bunch of like delays, tape emulations, reverbs. You've also got a lot of different like modulation effects, like motions and fragments. I use those 2 VSTs in specific on a ton of different stuff. And like for all of my like R&B and analog samples, I use this one called Tape Mellow, and that is just like a really good sort of vintage plugin. Next up, we got Beam. Beam is one I don't use too often. I really only use it when I'm making like ambient stuff. It's kind of like Portal on steroids in my opinion. It just kind of like does some crazy stuff. And you can like daisy chain a lot of the different presets together. I'll probably put it at B only because I don't get much use out of it other than for like ambient. Now we got the 2 goats of stock plugins. We got Fruity Delay 2 and Fruity Delay 3. I don't know why it's on here twice, whatever. I might get a lot of shit for this, but I use Fruity Delay 3 way more than 2. Fruity Delay 2 is definitely way easier to use. There's like 4 different knobs, but there's something about Fruity Delay 3 that just has like a better sound to it. I don't know. And there's just more like customization you can do with it. So I gotta go. Honestly, I'm putting Fruity Delay 2 in C just because it's okay, but we'll put Fruity Delay 3 in B. Next, we got Fin Micro. This is like a really good crystallizer type of plugin, and it's 100% free. So I'm probably going to put this at B. Next, we got Fresh Air. Honestly, Fresh Air is an A tier plugin. I use this on like every melody, every beat. It just adds like the perfect little amount of high-end like freshness, if you will, to your beats and melodies. Just makes them like a little bit extra crispier and just kind of like a little bit punchier. Now we got Halftime. I gotta put Halftime in A as well. It's just like a goated staple plugin if you don't use Grossbeat. It's like a $10 plugin, and it literally just does one thing in its halftime. So next up, we got Fruity EQ2. As far as usage goes, I think this is probably my most used plugin, to be honest. I've used Fruity EQ since the day I started producing, and I really don't think you need any other kind of EQ, in my opinion. I think this does the perfect job for what you need, and there's really no need for me to get a different one, so I'm keeping it in S. Now, that being said, I've never used FabFilter. I know I'm going to probably get a lot of hate for that as well, but Just never felt the need. Like I said, I got Fruity EQ3. Why do I need a new EQ plugin? Next, we got a couple of Cymatics plugins, and I'll actually just move this one over because it's a part of their collection. But we got Illusions, we got Origins, and Deja Vu, I think this one's called. Illusions, I'm going to put at probably like a B. It's got a lot of cool sort of like pedal tone effects that you can use. But again, there's just not that many like stock presets. And for me personally, I'm a really big fan of just having a lot of stock usable presets. I rarely do like sound design unless I'm really diving into a plugin. So it's nice to just kind of open it and click through and use whatever's already there. Next, we got Origins, and I'm putting this one at A, to be honest. I use this all the time on my like vintage type of samples. Next, we got Deja Vu. Deja Vu is the same as Halftime pretty much. It's just the Cymatics version. It is free, so I'm going to put it at B, but in my opinion, you can't really beat Halftime. This is pretty much just a rip of Halftime in their own version, so me, I'm always going to prefer Halftime, but Deja Vu is cool. If you want it, it's for free, so definitely a good second option. Now we got Looperator, and I chose between Looperator and Effectrix, and I chose Looperator only because I don't use Effectrix, but they're sort of similar. I know people will say like, you know, one is way better than the other. Personally, I've only ever used Looperator, but I'm going to put it at S tier. I think it's a really unique plugin that no other plugin can really do besides Effectrix. Like those are the two that kind of do this sort of like grid style of like effect sequencing. I use it a ton for beats, loops, pretty much anything. So that's an easy S tier for me. Fruity Soft Clipper, S tier. I use it on every beat, no surprise, but I've never felt the need to like get a different soft clipper. I know a lot of people use that T-Rax one. Personally, this one does the job for me, and I've never felt the need, like I said, to get a different one. So this is an easy S tier for me. Use it all the time. Now we got Shaperbox, easy S tier again. Shaperbox used to be like my go-to effects plugins for a long time. A lot of the stock presets are really good, and people also make incredible banks for it. So there's really just endless possibilities you can do with it. The user interface is like pretty easy to learn in my opinion, and it's just an all-around really good VST. Next, we got the Sound Toys bundle. I'm going to put this at A because it does offer a lot of good plugins. I will say it's probably just a little bit expensive. This whole bundle is really good for just kind of like post-processing melodies and stuff. I do think it's just a little bit too expensive in my opinion. There's probably a lot of other VSTs you could use to get the same effects out of these. Then we got RC20. RC20 now, I'm really just going to put it at B. I think there's a lot of other options that kind of do the same effect, like the stuff in the effects collections and even this Origin plugin. It just kind of does the same thing, and I feel like RC20 is just a little bit outdated, so we'll put that in B. Soothe 2, I used the free trial of this a while ago, and I'm honestly going to put it at C. The main use of Soothe 2 is to kind of get rid of all those harsh frequencies out of your loops and stuff like that, or maybe beats if you use it to like master, but I always thought it didn't really do like anything that crazy, and I'd much rather kind of learn how to just properly use an EQ to get rid of sounds that I want. It's also like $200, which is just not even close to worth it for me. Now this one I can vouch for heavy. These Safari pedals, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these. I'm putting these in S. I use these on so many loops. Me personally, I love the pedal effects and like pedal tones that you get with real guitar pedals. Obviously, those are crazy expensive on their own, so this is a really cool alternative that kind of takes those real life pedals and puts them into VST versions. I use a lot of these reverb ones, the delay ones. They have so many cool ones, and they do a sale every once in a while, so I think that's what I did. You get like 20 pedals for like $80, so it's a really good deal in my opinion. Next, we got Rift. I've used Rift here and there. I think it's a good plugin. It never really caught my attention too much, so I'm gonna put it at B. Now we got all of the Valhalla plugins. So we got like the Echo, shimmer, super massive, the reverb. I gotta put these in S tier. I think these are some of like the best reverbs and delays you can get. And these again have continued to be like at the top of the list as far as what people are using for reverbs and delays. Gross beat, gotta put it at S. Gross beat is like, it's like the OG shaper box. Like shaper box wouldn't be a thing without gross beat. I always remembered watching like Nick Mira tutorials, and I couldn't wait to buy FL just so I could use gross beat. All right, and then these last two are pretty much the same. They just kind of do different things, but same company. We got Thermal and Portal. I do think Portal is much better than Thermal. Thermal is more like distortion effects and whatnot. So I'm gonna put that at B. You can get pretty crazy with sound designing with Thermal, but again, I don't really use it too often, and I just think Portal is way better. And we're gonna put Portal in S. It's hands down the best like granular VST that exists. You can't really get anywhere close to what Portal can do in any other VST, so it's got to be an S tier, and I use it on a ton of loops. So yeah, we'll keep that at S. And that's it for the entire list. I actually don't think I'm gonna move anything around. I think this is a pretty solid list for me personally. Let me emphasize me personally. I know a lot of you guys probably have your opinions on what should be where. Definitely feel free to let me know in the comments what you would move around and what you would put where. We actually got a lot of S tier plugins. And I really kind of did that on purpose. I kind of picked a lot of stuff that I know personally is good. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Definitely leave any plugins that I missed in the comments. Maybe in a couple months, I'll rerun this back again with some new plugins, ones that I didn't have on here, or if ones that like you guys use all the time that I didn't have on here. Definitely feel free to drop them in the comments, and I will add them to a future list. Also, let me know what is your all-time favorite VST. It can be a synth, it could be an effects VST, it could be whatever. Just what is your all-time favorite plugin? Don't forget to follow me on Instagram as well. Join my Discord. Me and Prod Gateway have a kit dropping this Friday. And it's going to be launched on a brand new website that I am building currently. So definitely follow me on Instagram to stay up to date with that, and as well as join my Discord. I'm always in there posting loops and midis and whatnot, so if you ever want to collab with me, that's the best place to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.